So this piece is a very personal piece. It's just a reflection of the year 2020 and the trials I was faced with. Vulnerability, wavering faith, the pandemic, sickness, physical injury is all represented in this painting. She's barely covered. She just has a cloth and she's holding on to a sacrament as a way to say, you know, please help, you know, God, what can I do better? Because this feels like punishment. This feels like you've forgotten me. And that was a feeling I was experiencing. The pandemic gave us all time to focus inward on ourselves. And, you know, I was no different than anyone else in that regard. I chose to put it in German because I have German family. My grandmother's German, and I'm very close with her, and I speak the language so-so. But I wanted to really capture that part of my life too. And she's trudging through water. She's trudging through running water, which is, you know, no easy task. And she's also injured because I was injured this year. My hip was injured, and that's all depicted. And it was one of those things where I started painting her, and it was not supposed to be me, but it kind of ended up being a reflection of me and how I saw myself getting through the year.
Oh, well, this particular piece comes from a series called The Garden Collection that I started back in 2019. And since I have been isolating at home, decided I wanted to make the pieces larger and work on them more individually. So I work with the grid system to transfer the image from a small 8x8 to a 30x30. And in that process, I allow the grid to be seen and allow the process and the history of transferring the image to be done. I've been working with images from my backyard, paintings and drawings and sketches of plants. And what I did is I tried to reduce those down to more simple forms and using brushwork and the color and line work of the drawings to kind of come through. The small pieces are overworked. There's lots of layers, and whereas this one is just that one layer. But because I've had this ample time at home to really work on the artwork, I was able to kind of work through that process and come up with a new series.
All right. Well, this work right here was inspired by some of the events that has been going on in America today. A lot of the police violence, a lot of the racism that's been going on between the authorities and, you know, the people in America, black people in America. So it's just, this piece is just about that, what's going on, and how it sort of feels like the black man is being oppressed, but they keep fighting to be atop of the oppression. So that's pretty much what this piece is about. You know, there's a lot of things that went on, you know, during this time period. You know, people dying of this virus, including my grandmother who passed away while I was creating this work of this disease. But the violence and being created equal in Black Lives Matter movement and all those things that went on during that time, during the earlier parts of this COVID-19 virus. I guess you can call it a movement or a moment, which is still going on. I created this piece just looking at, you know, news reports, listening to what people have to say on Instagram about it, listening to interviews of different people, and just seeing the pictures of this Black Lives Matter movement over the world. It just moved me to have to create something that talks about it.
So originally it was a church scribble that I do when I'm in church, just keep me occupied. And never had any intentions of doing anything with any of these drawings, just random stuff out of my head. Well, during the lockdown, I was going through some stuff in my studio and I found a stack of them. And I was looking through them and I was like, how appropriate for what's going on. A scared jester clinging to what he loves. And of course, it never really had any meaning in the first place, but all of a sudden it had meaning. So I was like, hey, why don't we paint this? I'm not doing anything else. I had an exhibit coming up in October, so I was like, hey, I'll make this part of the exhibit. Just more random little strange things that I paint. And a couple months later, pop, there it is. And that's how it ended up being part of this.
Hi, well, hello, my name is Savannah Ralph. My piece is Women of Color, and I painted my piece around June or May, around then. It was when there were a bunch of protests, and it was a huge, big deal after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered, and it was just really effective to me because I went to the protests here in Greenville, not here in Greenville, but in Greenville where I'm from. And so after I got home, I was really inspired by everything I saw in the protests. So I wanted to create a piece of how I feel about the situation involving racial justice in America. And personally, I think that as white people, we kind of expect other races to conform to our ideals. And I just find that extremely unfair. And I like to depict other people and other groups of people in a certain light and try to uplift those groups of people that are typically kind of thrown under the bus for absolutely no reason at all. And so my piece just kind of takes a critical view on the social justice issues in America involving race, and I just wanted to kind of depict how we expect people to conform to whiteness, and we don't really spend enough time uplifting and valuing the beauty of other ethnicities and cultures. So in my piece, I used a lot of color, and I wanted her to be kind of surrounded by whiteness, a white border, almost to literally depict whitewashing, but she's kind of not really letting it affect her as a person. She's still surrounded by all this color and beauty, and I just find different cultures to be really unique and interesting.
For me, actually, the pandemic began not with the pandemic, but here in Spartanburg, as a Spartanburg artist, it began with a tornado. We had a tornado hit us here in February, which left damage at our building here and left damage across the entire city of Spartanburg. And at the same time, it kind of rang in the things that came after and that affect us till now. And there was one symbol for me in this that I found, and that was just a tilted cross on the top of a church. The church otherwise got not damaged. Just that cross got tilted in the tornado and stayed that way until mid of October. And for me, that was the sign that said it was a reminder about the pandemic all the time. And at the same time, when it finally got fixed, it kind of felt like maybe there is a chance that this is going to be fixed too.
Hi, my name is Pascal Sexton Birgis, and this is a piece I created in April 2020 at the beginning of the COVID virus thing. So this is called A Very Special Year Zoom 2020. And we have it's part of my Flat Little People series that I do. So we have the Zoom call right here. He's doing a Zoom call. And it starts with a sickness on the first case. You're coughing, you're getting sick. Then the social distance, you're sitting on a bench with a 6 feet apart or 6 centimeters. The youngsters at the beach, they're playing with a virus, playing like a ball, but they don't really care. This would be the European part. In Italy and France, people were really secluded, and some of them were playing music on their balconies. Very lonely, the hospital right here, the lovers in the garden, just away from everybody. We have the mother home with all the children reading books. They can't go out. The protest that we had in April and the social with window distance, This one is inspired by Jeannie Meret. She's a local artist in Colombia, and she posted a picture of her and her daughter communicating through a window. So this is dedicated to her. And then the last case is the hope, really, of going back to nature and growing your own food and not having to go shop to the grocery stores and, you know, trying to be substantial. Maybe that's a lesson that we're all learning in 2020. Thank you.